The academic world of Pune, India,
Huh.
was once rocked by a scandal, and one that involved a respected professor, his wife, and a student.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine his seemingly picture-perfect life, Dr. Ashwin Joshi, a renowned English literature professor at a prestigious college, and his talented artist wife, Naina.
Mm,
You might think they had it all,
right.
but behind the facade of success and happiness, there was a storm brewing.
Oh.
Dr. Joshi was entangled in a secret affair with his PhD student and teaching assistant, Meera Deshpande.
Oh, my goodness.
Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series.
It's a story that reminds you how quickly things can unravel, especially when the lines between professional and personal relationships become blurred.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this esteemed professor admired by his peers and students alike, and on the other, a young woman possibly caught in the web of admiration and ambition.
It's almost like something out of a classic novel, isn't it?
Yeah.
The seemingly perfect couple hiding a secret that threatens to destroy everything. And Dr. Joshi himself, the sources, paint a picture of him as someone charismatic and intellectually gifted, but also capable of great deception. Makes you wonder, what could lead a person like that down such a path?
It's a question that requires us to look beyond simple labels of right and wrong.
Right.
Infidelity is rarely black and white.
Yeah.
Was it a moment of weakness? Perhaps the pressures of his academic life, the constant need to maintain a certain image pushed him towards seeking solace elsewhere? Or could there have been underlying issues within the marriage itself, things we might never fully know?
And then there's Naina.
Yeah.
Everything I've read about her suggests she was a devoted wife, a constant source of support for her husband's career, and someone who was well respected in their own right. It's hard to imagine the pain and betrayal she must have felt as cracks began to appear in their seemingly perfect life.
You're right. It's a stark reminder that even in the strongest of relationships, communication is key. Was there a lack of emotional intimacy between them, something that perhaps pushed Dr. Joshi away? Or did Naina choose to ignore the warning signs, wanting to believe the best in the man she loved? These are painful questions, but they offer a glimpse into the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences that can arise when things go unspoken.
Then we have Meera, the student who finds herself at the heart of this love triangle.
Right.
The sources describe her as ambitious, someone who saw great potential in her future. Was she genuinely in love with Dr. Joshi, hoping to build a life with him? Or was her ambition clouding her judgment, leading her to believe in promises that may have never been meant to be kept?
That's where the issue of power dynamics comes into play. Dr. Joshi was not just Meera's lover. He was her professor, her mentor, someone who held considerable influence over her academic and professional future.
Oh.
It's a situation fraught with ethical dilemmas, and one can only imagine the internal conflict Meera must have faced the pull between her feelings and her ambitions.
It's easy to judge her actions, to label her as the other woman, but I think it's important to remember that she was also a young woman navigating a complex and potentially manipulative relationship.
Absolutely. And as the pressure mounted on Dr. Joshi to choose between his wife and his lover, the situation became increasingly volatile.
Yeah.
Reports suggest that Meera became more insistent, her emotions swinging between declarations of love and outbursts of anger. This brings us to a crucial question. Could this escalation have been foreseen? Could Dr. Joshi, as the one in a position of power, have taken steps to de-escalate the situation, to set clear boundaries before things spiraled out of control?
It's almost as if he was trying to rewrite a tragedy in his own life. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's...
Dr. Joshi, in a move that can only be described as reckless, invited both Naina and Meera to his office on the night of October 14th, 2019.
Oh, wow.
What was he hoping to achieve? Was it a genuine attempt at reconciliation? A misguided belief that he could somehow mend the fractured relationships he created?
It's a question that speaks to the human capacity for denial. Perhaps a desperate attempt to regain control of a situation that had long slipped from his grasp.
Yeah.
He might have thought he could reason with them, appeal to their understanding, but he underestimated the depth of hurt and betrayal that he'd inflicted.
And as we know, that night ended in unimaginable tragedy. Sources describe a heated argument, accusations flying back and forth, the raw emotions of love, jealousy, and betrayal filling the room.
Right.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly things can escalate when passions run high, how words can become weapons in the hands of those who are hurting.
Imagine the tension in that room. The weight of unspoken words and shattered expectations pressing down on them.
Yeah.
It's a scenario that's both heartbreaking and terrifying,
Mm.
a testament to the destructive power of secrets and lies.
In the midst of this chaos, Naina was stabbed with a paper cutter from Dr. Joshi's desk.
Oh my.
She died at the scene.
Oh.
It's difficult to even fathom the shock and horror of that moment, the sudden shift from heated words to a life tragically cut short.
It's a chilling reminder that actions have consequences, that even in the heat of the moment, choices are made that can irrevocably alter the course of lives.
Yeah.
And then there's Meera found in a state of shock, holding the very instrument that ended Naina's life.
Right.
Did she intend to kill? Was it a premeditated act fueled by jealousy and rage? Or was it, as her defense would later argue, a tragic accident, a desperate act in a moment of utter chaos?
The police immediately launched an investigation, piecing together the events of that fateful night, and the picture that emerged was one of a tangled web of relationships and escalating tensions. Colleagues and security staff testifies to the growing strain between the three individuals, the confrontations, the accusations, the simmering resentment that had been building for weeks, if not months.
It wasn't just one isolated incident. It was a culmination of choices, both big and small, that led to that tragic outcome.
Right.
And while the forensic evidence painted a picture of a struggle, of a violent confrontation, it couldn't definitively answer the question of intent. Was it a cold-blooded murder? Or was it, as Meera's defense would argue, an act of self-defense gone tragically wrong?
The trial became a battleground of narratives, each side presenting their interpretation of the events, each seeking to sway the jury and determine the fate of Meera Deshpande.
Yeah.
The prosecution painted her as a jealous woman driven to murder, pointing to her increasingly erratic behavior, her threats towards Dr. Joshi, her presence at the scene with the murder weapon in hand. It was a compelling narrative, but was it the whole truth?
The defense, on the other hand, presented a very different picture of Meera. They argued that she was a victim of circumstance, a young woman manipulated by a powerful figure, caught in a web of deceit, and driven to a desperate act in a moment of fear and panic. It was a story of manipulation of a power imbalance that left Meera vulnerable and ultimately led to her tragic downfall. The question for the jury was, who was the real victim in this story? Was it Naina, whose life was tragically cut short? Or was it Meera, a young woman caught in a web of lies and manipulation, who now faced the prospect of spending years behind bars for a crime she may not have intended to commit?
The court, after months of deliberation, reached a verdict. Meera Deshpande was found guilty of culpable homicide not amounting to murder.
It was a nuanced verdict, acknowledging the complexities of the case, the mitigating factors, while still holding Meera accountable for her actions.
Right.
The sentence, 15 years in prison, a sentence that recognized the tragic loss of life, the pain and suffering inflicted on all involved, while also acknowledging the possibility that this was not a case of cold-blooded murder, but rather a tragic consequence of a situation that spiraled out of control.
But what about Dr. Joshi? While he wasn't charged with a crime, his role in this tragedy is undeniable, wouldn't you say? His infidelity, his manipulation of both women, his reckless attempts to control a situation that was clearly beyond his grasp. All of these actions contributed to the events of that fateful night.
He may have escaped legal repercussions, but the court of public opinion was far less forgiving.
Right.
Dr. Joshi faced immense scrutiny. His reputation shattered, his career in ruins. He resigned from his position and retreated from public life, forced to live with the consequences of his choices.
And Naina, her life cut tragically short, her voice silenced in this whirlwind of betrayal and accusation. Her story is a poignant reminder of the collateral damage that can occur when relationships crumble, when trust is broken, when the pursuit of self-gratification overrides empathy and compassion.
It's a reminder that every action has a ripple effect, that choices made in the heat of the moment can have lasting consequences not just for ourselves, but for those around us. This case isn't just about a love triangle gone wrong. It's about the importance of honesty, of communication, of recognizing the power imbalances that exist in our relationships, and striving to create a space where everyone feels seen, heard, and respected.
It's a story that compels us to ask difficult questions. How can we recognize the warning signs of a relationship turning toxic? What responsibility do we have to address manipulative behavior, both in ourselves and in others? And ultimately, could this tragedy have been prevented if Dr. Joshi had been honest with both women from the start? It makes you wonder if honesty could have changed the course of their lives. Could open communication, even if it was painful, have prevented such a tragic outcome? Perhaps if Dr. Joshi had faced his own internal struggles, acknowledged the complexities of his emotions, instead of trying to control the situation, things might have unfolded differently.
It's a hypothetical question, but it's one that underscores the importance of self-awareness and accountability in our relationships. This case serves as a stark reminder that ignoring red flags, sweeping things under the rug, only creates a breeding ground for resentment, distrust, and ultimately, pain.
This case, the Pune College professor love triangle, as it came to be known, went beyond the confines of those directly involved. It sparked a debate within the academic community, forcing a reckoning with the often overlooked issues of power dynamics, ethical boundaries, and the responsibilities educators have towards their students.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that these institutions, often seen as places of learning and enlightenment, are not immune to the complexities of human relationships, the potential for manipulation, and the devastating consequences that could arise when those in positions of authority abuse their power.
You're right. This case became a catalyst for change, prompting many universities to reevaluate their policies on student-faculty relationships, emphasizing the importance of clear boundaries and professional conduct. It's a legacy that, while born from tragedy, hopefully serves as a preventative measure protecting future generations from similar heartbreak.
This deep dive into the Pune College professor love triangle has been a difficult one. It's a story that reminds you of the fragility of human connections, the devastating impact of secrecy and betrayal, and the importance of taking responsibility for our actions.
It leaves you with much to contemplate, doesn't it? It challenges you to examine your own relationships, to recognize the warning signs of toxicity, to prioritize open and honest communication, and to advocate for healthy boundaries in all aspects of your life.
And perhaps the most important takeaway from all of this is the need for empathy. To try and understand the complexities of human emotions, the pressures that can lead people down destructive paths, and the importance of offering support and compassion, even in the face of wrongdoing.
If we can learn from this tragedy, if we can use it as a catalyst for creating healthier, more fulfilling relationships in our own lives, then perhaps Naina's death will not have been in vain.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series. If this story resonated with you, please share it, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel for more captivating stories. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, love should empower, not destroy.